Mart is a popular manufacturer of art toys and blind boxes, and they're well known for collaborating with artists to make figures such as Peach Riot and Labubu. I've often dreamt about Pop Mart collaborating with me, but this is pretty unlikely. So today I'm going to try and make a Pop Mart style art toy of my favourite illustration, Sticky. First things first, I need to gather my ideas for this project, so I'm going to use today's sponsor, Milanote. If you've never heard of it before, Milanote is an easy-to-use tool for organising your thoughts and ideas into visual boards, and it really helps creators like me to stay on track during projects. Speaking of which, I'm currently using Milanote to plan this Pop Mart art toy project. I'm a very visual person, so being able to create mood boards and project plans that I can reference whilst working is super beneficial. Let's insert a bunch of images of my personal favourite Pop Mart figures, including Labubu, Pucky, and Crybaby. These chunky arrows and text boxes really tie everything together, and this pen tool is perfect for sketching ideas and notes around your boards, or even sketching like a Labubu. I couldn't help myself. I really like how this Pop Mart mood board is looking, so let's create a new board with some sticky references, colour swatches, and notes. I now have a better understanding of how I want my sticky art toy to look, so let's start designing. I love the pose that this hairy crab Pucky toy has, so I'm going to try something similar. I'm also keeping her outfit fairly simple. A black bodysuit, white socks, and bright pink shoes that match her heart lollipop will look great. Okay, I'm really happy with this toy design, so let's export it and add it into my Milanote project plan. Now that I have my design, I also want to make a quick board that has links to the paints and materials that I plan on using. Knowing what I need to gather ahead of time should speed up the process quite a bit. And last but not least, let's add a to-do list to my main project board. This will help me to keep track of what I have done and what I need to do next. As you can see, Milanote makes starting a new project easy, and with over 100 built-in templates available, there's really something for everyone. Also, once you're ready to share your ideas, you can simply invite your team to gather feedback and collaborate with them in real time. This is great for those important group projects where everyone needs to be on the same page at all times. If this all sounds good to you, Milanote is available for free with no time limit, so sign up for a free Milanote account using the link in the description. Thank you to Milanote for sponsoring this video. Okay, next up on my to-do list, 3D modelling the art toy. I want my Pop Mart style Sticky to be much more simplified than my original illustration, so I'm making her head and body quite blobby and round. Pop Mart's Crybaby is a really good example of the shapes that I'm going for. Keeping her head and body separate will make the painting process easier, as her chest and her chin are fairly hidden once her head is in place. Next up, I'm sculpting Sticky's lashes, eyebrows, hairline, and clothing onto the 3D model. This should add an extra level of depth to my figure once it's 3D printed. I've also decided not to sculpt a nose or mouth, as I want these to be painted on later. And last but not least, no Sticky is complete without a heart-shaped lollipop. And since I want this piece to sit flush against her forehead, I've voxel subtracted the shape of the lollipop from her head. Perfect! I'm really happy with how this 3D model is looking, so let's tick this off of my to-do list and send it off to my 3D printer. Printing Sticky's head like this will create layer lines all over her facial features, which will be a massive pain to sand down later. So, to avoid this detail-heavy area, I'm rotating Sticky's head just enough so that the Z-axis layer lines will be on her forehead, which I can then cover up with the lollipop. Okay, my plan worked. There are no layer lines over Sticky's face, but it seems I didn't add enough support under her chin. Not having enough support whilst printing causes the freshly extruded PLA filament to succumb to gravity and sag, which results in rough and ugly surfaces like this one. Not to worry though, I can use this misprinted head as a paint tester later on. Let's add more supports all around the underside of Sticky's head and print it again. And here she is. She's still a little bit messy, but this can easily be fixed by using some Milliput and sandpaper. Milliput is a 2-part epoxy putty which hardens after a few hours. It's fairly simple to use. I'm just mixing part A and part B together, pretending that I have a sick finger, and squishing it into place. You are technically meant to use gloves, but I found that the heat and the pressure from a gloveless finger is making it easier to squeeze the Milliput into place. And about 5 hours later, this Milliput has fully cured and can be sanded down. This should smooth out a lot of the support defects. This looks so much better than before, so let's start painting. I usually spray my models with a filler primer, but it's been raining for a while, and honestly, I am way too impatient to wait for a sunny day in the UK. So I'm going to paint on a few thin layers of black model paint as my base coat instead. Now that this black base coat has fully dried, I'm going to carefully outline Sticky's hairline, lashes and eyebrows using these super fancy sable hair paint brushes that James Lewis recently sent to me. Thanks, James! This blue model paint is actually the same shade of blue that I used on my large-scale resin sculpture of Sticky. And just like I mentioned in that video, using a pre-mixed shade for skin tones is ideal, as you don't have to remix the exact same shade over and over when painting new layers. Now that Sticky's skin is a lovely shade of blue, I can start to paint in the whites of her eyes and her cute little ankle socks. To make sure that the shoes and the lollipop are the same colour, I'm mixing a nice hot pink shade and painting both at the same time. This colour continuity is probably my favourite part of this entire sculpture. And finally, I'm adding an extra detail to this heart-shaped lollipop and painting on Sticky's simplified expression. I really love how this simple nose and mouth counterbalance her spiky lashes and hairline. Now that Sticky has been fully painted, we can tackle the most important finishing touch, the teardrop. Like I noted down in my Milanote project plan, I want this giant teardrop to be made of crystal clear resin. So I'm going to start off by forming the tear using a small blob of monster clay. Remember the misprinted head from before? I can use this as a guide to make the teardrop the perfect size. I'm pretty happy with how this looks, so now I can make a super quick silicone mold using this tiny plastic jar as my container. 8 hours later, this silicone has cured, so let's remove the clay tear and pour in some UV resin. This mold is pretty small, so the UV resin should cure quickly and evenly. 5 minutes later, I now have the perfect clear resin teardrop. This worked so much better than I expected, it almost looks like glass. And last but not least, since I've already got my UV resin supplies out, let's add a thin layer of resin to the surface of this lollipop. This should add a nice sheen, just like real candy. Now, all that's left to do is to assemble this sticky art toy and see how it looks. And here we have it. One pretty sad looking Pop Mart inspired art toy of my character, Sticky. This was a really fun project and now I kind of want to make some more. Maybe I could make like a Tulip Bantu Knots art toy, or how about a Call Me art toy? Anyway, I would love to know what you think of this finished result. Would you have done anything differently? Also, don't forget to check out Milanote. It's totally free to sign up and there is no time limit, so you can start planning out your creative projects right away. And as always, thank you so much for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video.